not immediately, but yeah, at some point, is infamous on the Gavriel sheet in gear. You haven't put your gear items. I know you know the gear that you've got. Yeah, I know you know the gear that you've got, and I know you're nowhere near your weight encumbrance limit, so it's not going to be immediately important. But when you have a moment, put that in, because weight eventually becomes important.
Okay, yep. I'll grab my notebook right now.
Cool. Okay, all of the rest of the sheets are fine. If you look in the PCs folder, you'll notice that I've put in 3 extra tokens. That they're just, even though they count as characters, they're not. They've got character sheets, but ignore that, with one exception. It's just so you can all easily manipulate them. The pickup truck token, which we'll be using as both the group token on the sort of overworld map, as it were, and also in case it should become necessary in combat. It takes up a square. It's got to be on there. If you go into the pickup truck token, and go to the vehicles tab, you'll notice that I've put in all of its values. I've also filled out its inventory with group assets, including your group food and group water, which is a little bit, well, quite a bit more than you originally thought you had, because I'd neglected one element of group assets, so I just put that in there. You still got enough room for everyone to ride in the truck and carry the cargo that you've got. But as I've noted in the inventory tab of the vehicle sheet, you have to reserve at least 50 units of cargo space for every passenger other than the driver. I've also assigned a weight of 2 to an empty jerry can. I know it doesn't probably weigh 2, but it's big, it's bulky, it takes up space, so that's fair. And I've put all of the fuel in the tank. If you want, for whatever reason, to remove fuel from the tank in a jerry can, that's fine. Double the weight of the jerry can if it's got fuel in it. And yeah, other than that, hopefully there shouldn't be any confusion there. Does anybody have any question about the group vehicle before I move on?
No?
No? Excellent. And you'll see I've also put in a full cover token and a partial cover token. You can all grab those, drag them out whenever you need. It's just, it serves no purpose, it's not a character. All it does is it indicates what kind of cover you're behind and which direction it's from. This will become clearer in ranged combat when that happens. But if you can imagine, in fact, I'll take you all to a combat page so I can demonstrate the principle. Okay, you should all now be on the wooded road map. I'll give that a few moments to load in for somebody.
Yep, I see it.
Cool. And I will just put down a random token to demonstrate the principle. Okay. So here, it's taking a moment to drag in, but it'll get there. There we go. All right. You will see standing. If you zoom out, you may need to zoom out a bit to find him. I'll ping him. In this hex, you should find a very handsome-looking NATO sergeant just standing around. Now, currently he's in a square that offers absolutely no cover, so I'll just move him to a square that does offer cover. So, say for instance, this forest tile. Now that he's in a forest tile, he has to select which direction he wants cover from. I'll put this full cover token down to do that. But let's say he chooses to have it there. You have to place it on the side of a hex. What that means is that he will have cover essentially in an arc out from that hex. So, and I'll just draw little X's in the affected squares. He'll have cover from fire coming from that square, that square, that square, that square, and then out in the line, but like that. Full cover, which will be the solid shield token, means that you cannot be seen if for whatever reason a round is going through full cover. It suffers not only the normal armor penalties, but it's a -3 to even try and shoot at you. And most of the time, they won't even be able to try to shoot at you because you are invisible to them. The other one, where the directional cover works in exactly the same way, but it's the empty shield, which is partial cover. Yeah, excellent. Somebody else already dragged it out. Wonderful. It works in the exact same way, except it's not actually a minus to hit you. It just means that everything other than your head and arms, which need to be exposed to fire, are covered by the armor value of whatever kind of cover you happen to be hiding behind.
Edge, I have a question.
Yes.
So when we're in full cover, we cannot fire ourselves, right? Because we're completely concealed behind whatever we're hiding behind.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we have to be in partial cover if we want to fire back.
That is correct. And I'm aware that doesn't quite take into account like some of the differences between different kinds of partial cover, etc. I mean, after all, you can poke a brick out from a hole in a wall and have a tiny little square and still be able to fire through it. And then there's other ones where you're sort of leaning around the corner of a wall and much more of you is exposed. But when you start getting into that kind of micro, the system just gets too slow. Okay. That's the basics of how the direction of cover, and we'll be using the cover tokens. And if I've set it up correctly, you should be able to draw out multiple cover tokens.
If you're buried in the bushes and you can't be seen from any direction, do you have to put a full cover token on every side of the token on the hex?
I will maybe do some sort of individual house rulings on certain circumstances where you've really dug yourself into something. But by default, you only get cover from one direction. So if somebody were to come at you from an angle, you can't have a cover square on more than one side of a hex. The obvious immediate exception to this is if there's something like a wall that goes above head height that is just completely obstructing view, or barriers as they're known. But for most forms of cover, it is only effective in one direction.
Well, what if you go into
as I said, if for whatever reason,
building?
Yeah, so if you go into a full building, let's see if I've got an example that I can use lined up. Yeah, right, I'll drag everybody to the urban map. Okay. So here's a pre-made. I don't expect you to bump into a city in the first couple of sessions, but I've prepared it just in case. I'll pull out a couple more random people to benefit from it. Oh, and one thing as well is that don't assume it's always one character or one token per hex. A hex on these battle map screens is a 10-meter space. So you can put multiple people into one hex. The only thing that's limited to one per hex is vehicles. So, okay. What we've got here is Chappie up against a wall. He would have, if he was firing, he'd have partial cover tokens, say, from that side of the hex. It would work as normal. If there was somebody else in the building firing from, say, this direction, he wouldn't have cover from that. Some buildings, you can assume internal walls and so forth, which would block cover. I'll point that out if that's the case. If you had somebody in the street here firing like that, he wouldn't be able to do it because this wall here is a complete line of sight blocking barrier. If you had a person essentially in that line, again, he wouldn't be able to do it because that's a complete line of sight blocking barrier. So stuff like that, which is hard line of sight blocking, it sets outside the normal cover rules, and it's just no line of sight. You can't fire at him.
Okay, so
so I have a question now, because he's obviously on top of a building, which is actually a parking garage structure. I realize that within so many hexes of the building, you wouldn't be able to shoot up at him. But what if I was, say, 20 hexes away with a sniper rifle? The declination of altitude, I still should be able to see him that far out, correct?
Oh, yes, you should. I will essentially do sensible decisions based on how it arises. So let's say I'll just pop down another token. Soviets. Okay, so as an annoying Russian sniper, let's say he's, I don't know, squatting in this ruined building here. I would say that those two... get in line. I would say, yes, those two have definitely got line of sight on one another. Similarly, over here... So this guy over... Let's say he was over here. He probably wouldn't have line of sight to the person standing on top of the building, not because he's too close, although it's essentially a variant of that, but because he's a long way away from the edge. He'd need to be far further away or have a higher elevation, like being on the roof of, or being in one of the upper stories of this building.
And not only that, there would be an obstructing vehicle between him and the target anyways. So.
In that instance, there would, yeah. For multi-story buildings on the battle maps, they're not going to probably not going to come up in the first couple of sessions, but they might. What you can do is essentially just state which floor of the building you're in, and your token should have a red, a green, and a blue circle when you click on it, and you can directly type values into it. Use the blue circle to designate which floor you're on. 0 for ground, -1 for basements, 1, 2, 3, up. That way we can keep track pretty easily of how many floors up people are in these kinds of buildings. So I'll give an example here. You could put, we'll say it's a 3-story car park, so that you would be floor, 2 up, and this sniper here, he might not even be able to see him if he's in the building just 1 floor up. Okay. And if for whatever reason you can't see the value of a hostile token, you want to know, just let me know, ask me, and I'll tell you what floor they're on. Okay. So I'll just delete those tokens. Okay, so that's cover. Now, what I've done, hopefully they're going to be of assistance, is if you go into quick read handouts, which you should all have access to at the very top, I have provided PDFs that contain summaries of the rules, the basic rules, and useful flowcharts. They can appear overwhelming, but I've gone through them, and once you've done it a couple of times, it's pretty smooth. That show how those kinds of areas of play are going to work. The one you're going to work in most is ranged combat. Hopefully that will open up for you in a size and so forth that you can read, and you should be able to utilize the zoom in feature. Does anybody have problems accessing or reading those sheets?
Once I expanded the window, it was fine.
Yeah, same. And I have the rule book in front of me too. So
excellent. Okay, and yeah, it's surprisingly quick once you start getting used to it. So ranged combat is generally going to be determine negative modifiers, which are usually terrain, vision, and distance. Take that many dice steps off of your dice score. So let's say you had a -2 negative and you were normally rolling 2d10. You would go down 2 dice steps and you'd be rolling 2d8. In terms of physically how to do that on your sheet, I'll if you go over to the combat tab, you'll notice that there's an attribute and skill section at the top, and you can just manually change those to whatever they need to be if for whatever reason you don't have any other way of doing it. I'll just do a test roll to make sure that that macro is working, but I've tested it before. Yep. Similarly, you can use ammo dice just by selecting the number of ammo dice that you want to use on the sheet. When it's dark grey, you'll automatically roll that number of ammo dice when you try to fire.
I also noticed the rolls are fixed for people using dark mode. So thanks.
Oh, good.
Whoever did that.
Yeah, I just noticed that myself.
That I will take full credit for that.
Yeah, you should powers. Just.
Yeah, I'll just take credit. I did nothing, but I'll take credit. Okay, now, do you want me to quickly run through the basics of ranged combat, or do you want to learn that on the fly when it happens? Because that's going to be the most common kind of combat, but all combat runs effectively like ranged combat.
Well, I would say, depending on how complicated the process is, will determine the answer.
Okay. So ranged combat... Oh, sorry, you were saying, Meg.
I was going to say learn on the fly, because I can actually learn while we're actually doing it.
Okay, absolutely fine. I will point out
Hey, BRB
one...
for a second. I need to do something.
Sure thing. I will point out one house rule. I can say this even though... well, Zhukov is... Oh, that's going to get confusing. We've got lots of... even though Nostro is gone. Because I don't think anyone's using this currently, but just in case any of you branch into heavy weapons in the future, rules as written say that when you're firing a heavy weapon, you use a combination of the heavy weapon and strength stat to fire, unless you're firing from a vehicle mount or a tripod, in which case you use a combination of heavy weapons and agility. I think that penalizes people who primary heavy weapons put lots into strength but make agility like their dump stat, because they're never going to use it because they're a heavy weapons person, and then suddenly they can't fire their heavy weapon the moment they put it on a tripod. That doesn't make sense to me. So what I'll say is when firing a heavy weapon from a tripod or a vehicle mount, you can use strength or agility, your choice. That way people don't suddenly lose their ability once you put something on a tripod.
Okay.
Right. I think that's about it for going over the basics of the rule set. One thing that I will point out, actually we'll learn it as we go, but is the basics of what's known as strategic play in the handout, or overworld play, which is the stuff that you do on the large map. One thing that's important to know is the way that time is broken down. So essentially, things are broken down into rounds, which are only really important in combat, stretches, which are not exactly time specific, but 30 minutes, an hour. Some tasks take a number of stretches, and then the big one, which is shifts. There are 4 shifts in a day. When you're doing stuff on the overland map, most of the things you'll be doing will take a shift, and those are dawn, day, evening, night, and yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. You have to make sure that you sleep for at least one of those, or else you're going to have a bad time. And generally speaking, you can't have multiple... It's not always true, but generally speaking, you can't have multiple people trying to do the same task on a shift. What you can do is help someone else, which busts their dice roll, but you can't get 2 entirely independent rolls on trying to do the same thing in one shift. I would also heartily recommend, but it is not mandatory, that you designate someone to keep watch every shift. or else you could be very easily ambushed should the enemy so choose.
I recommend.
Well, shouldn't you have at least 2 people doing that? Because one of them's got to sleep sooner or later.
I recommend.
So what you do is
we do it like
That's
we
how
did
you
in
were
the
saying.
military. 2 buddy system, 2 people all the time, no matter what.
okay. Yeah, in terms of the sleep bit that Sorel brought up, as long as you've got one person per shift, you'll get the role. So the one who's been doing it for several other shifts, somebody just steps into that role for the 4th shift, he sleeps for the 4th shift, and then back. Which means you have to alternate, like one person has to be sleeping at least a different time to everybody else, or else things will start going quite badly. But yes, you can absolutely put 2 people on. It will assist the role a little, but it won't give you 2 separate roles. The rules are quite specific on that. But yeah, you can do that. You might start running low on people, but yeah, it should be fine.
So to extend the question a little bit, so with 2 people watching or pulling guard duty, and one is always going to be sleeping off shift from everybody else, won't that kind of restrict the amount of time we have to move, or can that sleep cycle occur in the vehicle?
Sleep cycle can occur in the vehicle.
Okay, good.
Also, rest cycles, which aren't full sleep, but make healing faster, can also be done in vehicles.
Oh, okay, good.
And the general rule is, with the exception of combat, minor interruptions to whatever you're doing on a shift don't spoil the task that you were doing, as long as about 75% of the time in that shift you're doing that task, you will complete the task. Okay. Well, I can't immediately think of anything else to cover in the prelim section. Is there anything anybody would want to know before we start actually getting into play?
Would it be possible to do like a quick combat scenario from us 3 against like 3 enemies just to see how it works before we get into it?
Okay, yeah. I had something. I had a way of doing that plan, but yeah, we can absolutely do all that. So what I'll do is I'll move to a relatively simple map, Woodland. We probably won't do the full fight, we'll just do a couple of rounds. So I'm going to move everybody over to the Woodland map.
So one thing that I've realized with different RPGs is because different RPGs place different amount of importance on different things, even if the mechanics of combat seem super simple, like for example Star Trek Adventures has super simple combat, but because there's no there's no need really for a whole lot of combat in the game, it can kind of confuse, at least in my case, it confuses. Sometimes it can make me think, or it can make someone think that, the I don't know how to say it that where it makes sense, but basically, like, if so, for example, when I learned very quickly in D&D that combat means more than the actual roleplay. Like if you try to roleplay your character in combat, you're going to end up dead pretty much. So I had to learn a lot of times that running away as a rogue is really important, even though my character might not necessarily do that. So in this case, it seems like, and this may be completely false, but it seems like this game focuses more on the crunchy or math side of combat than say Star Trek, where it's like, as long as you leave the scene, you're basically considered healed at the end. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't want to just be thrown in the middle of session 1 in the middle of combat, because I don't know what this game places importance on the most. Like the math, like if you get to this certain amount of points, are you 100% dead, or if you get out of the scene, are you going to be okay? You know what I mean? Like I don't know where this game places those important points.
Okay, so yeah, perfectly happy to set out some of that and do a very brief starter scenario. I'm going, even though she won't be taking part in this combat, I'll just use her as a a sort of rally point for you. If you can see Dr. Megan Rostram's portrait, feel free to place yourself anywhere on that tile of the map set that I'm using. You can tell by the edges that where the tile ends.
And does our characters know about the 3 enemies across from us or no?
Yep, we'll say there's no surprise in this scenario, and the lighter ground. Oh, hang on, the lighter ground is higher ground. So this is higher than that.
Okay, that was my next question. Okay.
And we will start people being in cover if they want to be. Let's
I am in cover.
Absolutely.
Hiding cover.
That's another question. So these individual trees, how much cover do they provide, or are they just there for appearance and they're not really cover?
Okay, so it should hopefully be in the ranged combat handout. It's just taking a moment to load up. Alright, if you go to the ranged combat handout, you'll see in the center at the bottom various different terrain types, and they give you modifiers. So visibility is how many hexes you can see through that kind of terrain before your visibility just ends. Ranged attack is the dice step penalty you take for firing at people who've got who are in that kind of terrain. Movement is...
So that's firing at them or firing from that terrain?
I will
both.
Double check this, but I believe it's firing at them.
Okay.
Right, so us
movement...
Sorry, go ahead.
So the movement modifier is how many dice steps down you get when you attempt a mobility roll to move further than your initial 2 hexes, which I'll detail more in a moment. Cover just says whether or not you can seek cover in that kind of terrain, and then in brackets the armor value of that cover. And then infiltration is the bonus or negative to take, essentially doing stealth rolls in that kind of terrain.
Okay. So basically, considering the elevation and all of that, they can't see us and we can't see them. Is that right?
Yeah, if you wish to start deploying there, then yes, the higher elevation terrain between the 2 groups is line of sight blocking. No combat. Well, no direct fire combat possible. Indirect is a thing, but indirect will be rare and not appearing in this scenario.
Okay. I'm looking for.
So, looking at the penalty, the movement modifier penalty, should we be rolling to be able to move through the terrain we're currently in?
So the way movement works is, assuming you're standing up, then with the exception of wading into shallow water or swamps, which immediately stops your movement, you can always move 2 hexes, like no matter what. If you want to continue moving past those 2 hexes as part of your fast action, I'll come on to that in a moment, you have to do a mobility roll. And that is the debuff to your mobility roll. If you fail your mobility roll, you cannot move any further than the 2 hexes you have already moved. But you can always move those 2 hexes. If you're crawling, it's 1 hex.
All right. The reason why I'm asking is as a sniper, I'd want to be high ground, at least in some cover. And I was looking at getting, and I'll ping it on the map, to this point. But I'm at least 3 hexes from that point. So,
well, as part of deployment, you can deploy for the purposes of this scenario anywhere in this. Hang on, I'll draw a shape in that box. So you can start anywhere in that. If you want to start further back and effectively practice the movement, you can. But if you want to start there, yeah, it's absolutely fine. Okay.
How do you do that?
Let me know whenever.
That line thing that you do with distance and stuff. How do you do that? I should know.
Okay,
that
so Yeah, if you look at the toolbar that should be in the top left-hand corner of your screen by standard, one of them should be a ruler.
Oh, okay.
You can use that and then to measure things, and everything should be set in meters.
Is it snap to corner or which one of those?
Snap to center.
Okay, well, okay.
Actually, mine seems to be just snapping wherever I put the cursor.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's fine as long as the measurement is accurate. It's all good.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Commodore, you're the boss.
Yeah. What is your strategy, Commodore?
Let's get the high ground.
Okay.
Get the jump on.
Who's got a...
Okay, so if you're start...
also, I don't know what everyone's weapons are. I just know what mine is. Whoever has the most long-range weapons should definitely
Hey,
go first.
I'm back. What did I miss?
Yeah, I have a sniper rifle.
Okay.
Helen,
This is a
yeah. So before we went into combat, where things can actually happen, as it were, GM, well, normal GM, I'm GM, Infamous wanted. I'm gonna have to take some time getting used to that.
Yeah.
Infamous just wanted a very brief round or two of combat to get a grip of the basics. So we're just doing that. So this is a non-cannon skirmish. It also will not involve any cannons. But okay, once you've deployed yourself where you want to be deployed, let me know, and we'll get into the initiative phase.
Yeah, I'm where I need to be.
Here.
Okay.
Question.
I'll delete the deployment box.
Question.
Oh, yes.
So, how do I get out of that thing that I just asked you about? Do I just click it again?
Yes, click it again, or click on the arrow cursor at the very top. It'll take you back to just the selector arrow.
Okay, so I think once the sniper is able to, if he can, I don't know how perception works in this game, but if he can visually see anybody over there, then we can talk about moving forward or around. As I just want the sniper, since he's got the long range weapon, to be able to visually put eyes on the enemy.
Absolutely. Well, do you want to begin this scenario assuming everybody is aware of one another, or do you want to do a stealth section just so you can see how that works?
I mean, I think we're all aware of that each other exists in this game, but maybe not know exactly where we are. So that way, because I want to see how the perception works through the sniper scope. Like, I want to see what he has to roll. I want to see the penalties, etc., so that we know going forward how that works.
All right, so you are aware there is danger, but you do not know where the enemy are. In that case, let me see, we've got 4 players, so we now enter initiative, which is done on the basis of high draw from a deck of cards. Now, sadly, I can't, due to the limitations of Roll20, I'm going to make a custom deck for the next session, but I can't do that quite yet. I can't remove the various suits, but what I will do is deal 1 card to everybody here. Players. I should be able to see. Oh no, I'm not going to steal anyone cards. Okay, for some strange reason I can't see what you've all got. Everybody, tell me the card that I just dealt you.
Now, one of my traits is I get 2 initiative cards, and I get to pick one of the 2.
All right, I'll deal you another one. Ooh, did not mean to do that. I'll just return that to hand.
I mean, I only see 1 card, so...
Okay.
Oh, it just disappeared.
Yep, what I will do now is I'll just shuffle that. And I shall deal Buzz 1 additional card. Okay, hopefully you can see above your name tags at the bottom of the screen playing cards. Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me what card you've got, and that will determine initiative. Effectively, low number goes first, high number goes last. We'll just do it by numbers. Suits aren't important. If for whatever reason 2 people have drawn the same thing, you choose amongst yourselves who you want to go first.
All right. I've got 5.
Okay. You can drag your card out onto the map if you want. I have just discovered this. So you got a 5 as your lowest number. You're putting them by your name. That's very good. That's clever. Okay, so Sobislaw's at a king.
I got a ace. That's
An
a
ace,
1.
okay. So that's a 1, yeah. You're definitely up first. And what has Infamous got?
I have a king, but because of scrolling, it's not exactly where it should be on the screen. So
Fine. So we've got 3.
So I'll probably go last.
Yeah. Infamous as a king. I'm just making note of this. What have you got, Nostro?
What? What's up?
Card.
You should have
card.
a playing card. Yeah.
What's your playing card?
King.
Okay, you got a king. Between yourself and Infamous, which one of you wants to go first?
What's your weapon? Is it a more long range weapon?
I've got like a pistol and 3. No. I got 1 frag grenade, 1 anti-tank grenade, and 1 white phosphorus grenade.
Okay, I'll go before you because I have an M4A1, so I could probably pepper the area with bullets while you get the grenades ready to launch.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, I've noted the initiative order, and that will not change. So I can now recall all the cards to clean everything up. Recall all. Whoopa. But yeah, okay. So now initiative has been determined. The cards will not appear again in combat, or at least they shouldn't. So the first up is the Ace, the Commodore. What do you wish to do, Commodore?
Well, he can't do much, so he's going to keep in cover and
Okay.
keep a lookout.
Does this game have a way for, like Star Trek does, where the Commodore could give orders because it's a Commodore and that kind of helped the players out, or is that just a flavor kind of thing?
That's much more of a flavor type of thing. One thing that leadership characters are good at doing in the system is assisting other people once they've started getting pinned, once they've started getting morale problems, etc. But whilst the morale of the group is high, Commodores are essentially, well, I say Commodores, officers still function like combat characters, especially since you don't have the indirect fire, the company, etc., that requires the officers to stay back and manage things.
Can we do that?
One thing we could do, and this is entirely up to the Commodore because it's that player's turn, is on page 55 of the rulebook, there's a thing called exchanging initiative. As long as you communicate with another willing player whose turn has not yet come up, you can exchange your initiative with that player so that other player just trades your initiative values with each other.
Yeah. Yep, that's entirely possible.
And the other thing I was thinking about is since even though he has this, Sorrel has the sniper rifle, Mac can kind of just listen and look around and see what they can see without the sniper rifle. I don't know how that works in the game.
So, can I actually roll for recon to see?
You absolutely can. Now, the enemy are in, shall we say, terrain that makes it harder to spot them. So what I'm just going to do now is very quickly consult the sheet. Apologise.
Well, it looks like they have visibility because they're not 3 deep. They are minus 1 to range attacks.
And I'm just getting this open. Hang on. Yeah. attacks, and then movement cover. No, so it's the infiltration value. Okay, essentially this is an opposed roll. So you just do flat recon, and they get their recon at a slight buff.
Oh, okay. Because I do have the intelligence recon, roll recon when you spot enemies, or I use that.
So that doesn't give you a buff to the roll. That means that you know more things about them once you've spotted them. Scout is what gives you the buff to the roll. Okay, so you have rolled recon and failed to spot them, but let's see if they give themselves away. Unlikely.
Can you explain what I'm looking at as far as the dice? It's not like Star Trek where it says success or fail. It's just a dice. I don't know what it means.
Yeah. So the macros have helpfully been set up in that they'll only display the success and failure results. So blank means it's a failure but not a critical failure. An explosion means that it's a critical failure. Those only really become relevant when you push or in certain other scenarios. Most of the time, the critical failures just count as a normal failure. And a sight, which is or crosshairs rather, which is a success. And for ammunition dice, which would not be appearing in this situation, but if you get a bullet, that either means, well, that usually means extra damage, or you can hit an additional target. So they've got a slight buff to their roll, which will mean their normal. Okay. Oh, yeah, they succeed. So you know there's something over there, but you do not spot them. I've rolled as a group, and I rolled using the worst cover that they're in.
Yep. Okay.
Was that a roll for them to be in cover, or a roll for them to see us?
For them not to be seen by you, it's an opposed roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can that task be rolled multiple times by different players?
Absolutely, it can.
So I'm gonna keep in full cover.
Okay.
Yep. Behind the trees, so they can't see me.
Absolutely. You'd have to have temporarily exposed yourself in an effort to see them, but as a free action, you can always drop prone or drop back into full cover. That's not a problem.
Yep.
What I'll do is I'll just draw the cover marker out over you. But first one, you can see what kind of terrain you're in. You are in heavy woods. Heavy woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, means that I don't believe heavy woods grant cover, but I'm going to check that. Don't want to accidentally get you killed. Well, I say get you killed. This is non-canonical.
Foliage does not provide cover.
Yep. Heavy. It's the foliage, not the heavy woods. Okay. Oh, sorry. The denser foliage, which is what you're in, does not provide cover. Hard to see people, but it doesn't provide you with cover if you're shot at.
Okay.
So you have no cover there.
Wait, so the trees that we're currently in have no cover?
No, the little trees do, but the big tree that she's behind does not.
Okay.
What's the reason
Can I fall
mechanically, for that?
Okay, it's a limit. Yes, you can. You can fall back those 2 squares without having to do any kind of roll. And for Infamous, the clump that we're referring to as heavy trees, which I shouldn't have done, is more like thick bushes. The more spread out ones are trees that have got actual trunks.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Visually, it's a little confusing, but if you look at the terrain types, it actually makes more sense.
So yes, you've successfully moved 2 hexes. You've gone below the hill line. It's now impossible for them to shoot at you.
Yep.
Next up in the initiative order, and I should say what you've done there is 2 fast actions. In a standard combat round, you either get to do 2 fast actions or 1 fast action and 1 slow action. Slow actions tend to be the more cumbrous things like slowly aiming, firing, doing more complex tasks. fast actions are things such as movement and other more minor things. There should be a helpful summary, probably provided in ranged combat, but it's also in the rulebook. Okay. So next up is the Soviets. They are going to attempt to do a recon roll to see if they can spot you. I'm going to assume that they have got the same limitations you have got. Okay, so they fail. Yeah, you don't even really need to oppose that. That's always a fail. So they are sitting around, vigilantly watching the ridgeline, but they don't spot anything. Next up on the initiative order, it is Buzz up 5.
Okay. So I'm looking at the slow and fast actions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the one to look for the enemy specifically, the recon roll one. Is that one of the 2 actions?
Yeah, so recon rolls are normally done sort of like outside of combat.
Okay.
But because it's not, because people can sneak into combat, you can't know ones. I'm just going to be deliberately looking for people when they're still, as a fast action. If people start moving around or shooting, you'll almost automatically spot them, particularly if they break cover.
Okay, so I want to do a recon roll, but we're not officially in combat, so I'm not burning one of my 2 actions. Is that correct?
For the purpose of this, we're assuming that we're in combat, so you are actually using your actions, because everybody's aware there's enemies, they just don't know quite where they are. But
okay.
Since we have already done recon, we can speed up this tutorial by just assuming you have spotted them, if you want to move on to the shooting.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do then is, as my slow action, I'm going to do the sniper aim, and it'll be at the guy that doesn't have cover, because I can assume I can see him because he doesn't. I mean, I guess he's in the foliage.
Yeah, so he's got visual cover, which makes aiming at him, harder. But he hasn't got solid cover. There's nothing that's going to stop a bullet.
Right. So I'm going to take a sniper aim at him as the slow action.
Excellent. You don't have to do anything with your fast action if you don't want to, but you still have that. You would normally have to do. Sorry,
I'm not seeing anything that would benefit me. So, I mean, I'm already taking the sniper aim, so aim doesn't help. So, at this point, am I done because the slow action takes more time, or do I actually? Okay.
So what you have in a combat round is either 2 fast actions or 1 fast action and 1 slow action.
1 slow action, right? So I won't get to fire until the next round or the next.
That's correct.
My next turn. Yeah. Okay. I'm done.
Yeah, it's the disadvantage of slow aim. Okay. So next up is Infamous with the low king. What do you want to do?
So we're assuming that we know where they are, but they have partial cover behind those bushes and rocks and things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the sake of moving the tutorial along, everyone can now see everyone.
So
but
I don't want to necessarily just start shooting with my M. You know what I mean, the rifle, because he's.
Info.
So just that as like, what's the likelihood of 1-shot 1-kills with sniper rifles? Is that like pretty common if you can see them, or is it like a crapshoot? It's just random.
Yeah. So sniper rifles have got about enough damage to reliably do over 50% damage to somebody if they don't hit like body armor or anything along those lines, or if they're not intersected by terrain. They also tend to, if for whatever reason they do sort of extra damage, it's not that difficult to crit with them. Critting against what I would describe as a minion NPC just automatically kills them. Critting against a non-minion, it functions like a crit against a player, where they could actually, in theory, survive it just like you could.
Okay, so because like I said, what I don't want to do is just start shooting and then miss, and then they know where we are, and now our sniper isn't, it doesn't get a shot off. So, what can I do to kind of either assist the sniper or gather more information, or because I mean with Star Trek it's like whatever I can think of I can do, but with this it seems more like you have to literally only do these certain things or nothing.
Well, if you can come up with an idea for something that's outside the rules, just tell me what your idea is, and I can essentially give a ruling on it.
What if
in terms of carry on?
I was just gonna say, what if I threw a rock over here and tried to distract them and get them to think that we're over there?
Okay, yeah, that is something I would absolutely allow you to do. I'm just going to do a quick range measurement. Okay, so that's going to require you're not really trying to be accurate, so do a combined strength and stamina roll. That's effectively how far you huck the stone. It's slightly different for grenades and so forth, but that's how far you huck the stone, and I can then essentially do a slightly improvised ruling based on whether or not you get the stone that far based on your degrees of success, or if you accidentally drop it closer to your scenario, to your position, and draw their attention. Because you're throwing it about 50 meters. That's a darn long way. Or 40 meters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've got to remember. Closer. Yeah, I've got to remember that the scale is not to scale. So I might just end up throwing it like to there, and then they all converge over there, and then they basically find us. So that may not be a. Yeah. So when you said combined, do I just click on both strength and agility and?
No, if you just click on stamina, it'll do it automatically. It'll combine the strength and the stamina.
Stamina, where's that on the character sheet? Oh, I thought you said strength and agility. Sorry. Yeah, I see it. Okay, so, and are we assuming? Well, I think we can assume that they can't hear us if we whisper, right? Because we're kind of far.
At this distance, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'll ask the others, like, is it a good idea to try to get their attention? Because we don't know if they know we're here. We just know that they're there, so we don't know. They might just be sitting around, completely unaware that we're here, which I think was the case. I think that's what you said.
Well, he said they were scanning the ridge line, so they're on guard against something coming from our direction.
Right. So do you guys think it would be a good idea to like send a rock over there, get their attention? Because keep in mind, if we're in the woods, there's going to be a fair amount of like critters and animal life and other things that's making noise. So they might just think, oh, there's a deer moving around or something. So it would have to be like a pretty substantial throw to make any kind of noise that would get their attention. We could also just throw a grenade over there and see if they go after that. I don't know, but I think one thing is I'm overthinking it because I don't want to, mess up and die or get someone else killed, even if it's just a tutorial. Whereas in Star Trek, it's less likely to happen. So what do you guys think? Chuck a rock, or just open fire, or just pass and see what happens?
I don't know that a distraction would do much, especially because it would be 60, 70 yards away from them. They may not even hear a rock you could throw that far.
Yeah. You're overthinking it.
Throwing a grenade over there might alert them that, okay, so something exploded there, but where did it come from? So
when you did your aiming, so basically right now you're looking through your scope at them, ready to take fire, whereas I got my weapon up at more like ready, just I'm not really aiming. Could I take aim along with Sorrel, and basically we could do one of those fire at the same time kind of things?
You absolutely could. You can either fast aim, which would allow you to fire as a slow, or you can slow aim, which isn't. You're not going to get a huge amount of difference because you don't have a rifle with a telescopic sight. But you could also. There isn't a mechanic for this, so I'll fluff it as an Overwatch. You could effectively declare that you're going to be using Overwatch to fire at the same time at the same target, which essentially reserves your slow action to fire out of your normal turn.
Okay, I think.
I would say Overwatch would be ideal, because if I fire, one of the other Soviets. If I hit the one of the other Soviets may react, and then your Overwatch would react to their reaction.
Yeah, and then we could potentially, probably not, but potentially take 2 down in like our next round, as long as they don't just start running at us before we get to that round or turn or whatever it's called.
Well, even Overwatch from Warhammer, any action by the enemy triggers Overwatch, and I'm going to kind of assume that that's what Edge is thinking here.
Indeed,
So,
and Overwatch will go before they go. So essentially, you fire at them as soon as you possibly could.
Right.
So let's say they pop out from behind cover to shoot at you, you'll get shoot at them.
Even
before
if
they
it's
shoot
not
at
our turn, basically.
you. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
it's a
an
reaction.
out-of-turn action.
Oh, okay.
It's a reaction.
So yeah, I'll do that then. I'll just have the rifle up, look down the sights, and any movement I see, if it looks like they're coming, to attack or whatever, then we can just open fire.
Fantastic. Now, the way Overwatch works in this game, I'm going to do it rules as written for the sniper rifle, where you have to do it against a particular square, because if you're staring down a telescopic sight, you can see very well a very small area, but you don't know what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah.
But for people who've got non-telescopic sights and you've got a wider field of view, I'll essentially allow it to be a direction rather than a specific square. Are you going to be doing it in like this direction? So it's because you're not going to get all of them in the same like Overwatch.
Yeah, I'm assuming
that one or
well, which square is he looking at? Because I don't want to
is looking at the one person not in cover.
So yeah, I'll just look in this direction. I'll let Mac handle that one.
Excellent. Okay, so that's your turn done. You have aimed and overwatched. It now goes to Nostro at the bottom of the round.
I think Nostra's muted and deafed, so I think they're still busy. So if Mac or whoever wants to go, I guess.
In that case, yes, it circles back round to Mac.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my pistol up, and I'm gonna. Is that cover up there?
That's shrubs. That's shrub. No, yeah.
Okay.
If you want cover, you need to be right here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there, and gonna take aim at this one.
That one?
No,
okay.
Yeah.
So you've moved and fast aimed. That's 2 fast actions.
Yeah, so I believe that's all I can do right now.
That's correct. Soviet's turn.
So just as a clarification, I'm sure this is right, but I just want to make sure. Is fast and slow action just another way of saying major and minor action from D&D?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's not really that slow to shoot. I don't know why he's saying that, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So it's basically just a minor action versus a task or a major action or main action.
The Soviets have potentially seen you. Now, of the characters on the ridgeline, who has the worst recon stat? What you can sort of call out your recon.
My recon's a C, Charlie.
Okay. What's Infamous got?
Mine's a Delta, a D.
Delta, and what a D. Okay, who has got of the 2 Ds? Who has got the worst intelligence between the Commodore and Infamous? Have you got Commodore?
A B.
A B,
I've got
and
A.
Infamous?
A.
An A. Okay, Commodore, please roll your recon stat, because they automatically roll against the worst stealth in the party, or of people they can see. 2 successes. So yeah, nah, they don't see you. Even they got a success, you're still hiding too well. So they're really scanning, but no, they've not seen anything.
So that double.
They might have heard you crash. They might have heard you crash through the brush, but they didn't actually visually lay eyes on you.
That double bullseye or whatever, that's the critical success you mentioned, right?
So there's a critical fail, which is an explosion. A critical success doesn't really exist, but if on your dice you roll what would be a 10 or above, it counts as 2 successes.
Oh, so
that's why there's 2 aims.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that means it comes round to Buzz.
Yep. I'm going to assume that I have line of sight to them, and I'm
do?
going to put a round through the guy's mullet.
Okay, now, since you said put a round through the guy's mullet, do you want to do a called shot to the head, which makes it harder to hit, but means if you do hit them, it's guaranteed to be a head hit? Or do you want to fire normally, where your hit location is randomly determined, but you're more likely to hit them as a whole?
Well, if you remember, I always try to do the most humane shot, which means one shot, one kill.
All right.
Shooting at the body doesn't guarantee a kill. Shooting at the head would.
Yep.
So, yeah, I would take an aimed shot at the head.
Okay, an aimed shot is 2 steps down. Your slow aim is 2 steps up, so that balances out. And they are in... Let me just check which kind of cover they're in.
They're in the forested cover.
They're in the forested cover, which is 1 step down. So, roll your... Well, I'm just looking at your sheet, so I can see what you would be.
I think it would be a B ranged on my agility, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, rather than rolling 2d12, you'd be rolling a d12 and a d10.
And I'm not going to use ammo dice because I'm taking a single shot.
That's correct. All right. Okay, you have successfully hit him in the head. He is wearing a steel helmet, so does your weapon have any armor value? I know the answer, but I'm just making you look.
Yeah, I don't remember. I got to look at it. Apparently it does not.
Okay, so in that case, it takes
Which is
your
strange.
normal... Yeah, 3 damage down to 2. He has suffered 2 points worth of damage to the head. You have not exceeded critical threshold, so you don't get a critical wound to the head, which would, because he's a minion NPC, just kill him. Yeah, so I'm just going to note the stress down that's done to him.
I want to look at that because that's it's a weapon. Because I'm surprised it doesn't have armor damage.
Could you also specify, like, I mean, I don't want to hit him in the helmet. I want to hit him in the neck or something like that, like somewhere more vulnerable in the head area, or is that?
You can't specify under these rules more. Well, you know what? I'll allow it. Generally speaking, if you specify, it's either head, torso, arms, or legs. Those are the areas that you specify. If, however, you want to do the neck, I will allow it, but I will increase the negative to hit because it's an even smaller zone.
The only reason I ask is because I wouldn't ask for me because I have an M4, but him having a sniper rifle, he would literally have more of an ability to target a specific body part than someone with a rifle or pistol. So that's
true, but again, shooting somebody in the neck's not going to necessarily kill them instantly, and my character doesn't like maliciously wounding people, and that for me, shooting somebody in the neck would be malicious.
And I also assumed that like the wind direction and speed and all that other stuff would have come into effect, and possibly even if he was aiming dead in the center of his face, it could have veered the bullet towards his helmet or something. Yeah,
that's a good way of fluffing this. And so yes, you've panged him on his helmet. He is surprised by this. You don't have a suppressed weapon, to my knowledge, or anything along those lines, so they know what's going on.
Yeah, just a telescopic sight.
Now, since he's fired, does my character automatically fire, or does my character only fire, like you said earlier, when they react to it?
Because you specified you were doing it, like withholding the action to fire at the same time as he did, I'm going slightly outside the normal rules and allowing you to fire. But just before you do, because you're firing at a different target, someone has been hit by a ranged attack. They must do a cool under fire roll. I will now do that. He succeeds his cool under fire roll. He does not become pinned. If for whatever reason he were to become pinned, he would take stress damage and be unable to take actions in the next turn. But okay, you can now fire at this person over here. You've fast aimed, so that's +1. He is in shrubbery, which is I believe it's going to be a he's in forest rather, which is -1, so that breaks out at even. I don't believe there's anything else. Oh, what's the range increment of your weapon?
Who are you
That's a
asking?
good question because I don't remember. It's an
Asking it
M4A1.
Infamous, because most
his
assault rifles have range 6.
His M4 is 4, range 4.
Range 4. Okay,
Oh,
you
yeah,
are
there it
firing at medium range because he's 7 tiles away, 70 meters, which puts you at a -1. So you are overall rolling at a -1. Your normal ranged combat ability. What's your agility and what's your ranged combat stat?
Am I muted? No, okay. My agility is A, my ranged combat is C, but I do have a modifier that says gives +1 modifier to ranged combat for rolls for firing.
Excellent.
So hopefully that
Yeah,
helps.
you've got rifleman.
Actually,
remembered.
it says never mind. It's sidearms. I thought it was for all of ranged combat, but it must just be for sidearms. Because that wouldn't make sense if
unless
it was
you've got
for both.
Oh, I've got those modifiers too. So +1 for sniper, +1 for rifleman.
Yep. Fortunately, you hit anyway. But yes.
Yeah.
Well remembered, GM or Infamous for going to those.
So is this a question? I just got a quick question on the damage. How damage is done? Is this similar to how? And I don't know. You probably haven't seen how we do in the Supernatural game, but whereas like you only roll to hit them, and then it automatically removes a certain amount of damage, or do we roll for damage as well?
So no, damage is automatic, and then the amount of armor that person has got is automatically subtracted from the damage value of the weapon.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So do I just roll the ranged combat dice, or?
So you would roll a d12 and a d6 from the second page, because normally you'd roll a d12 and a d8, but you're at overall -1 because you're firing at medium range, so that becomes a d12 and a d6.
Wait, the second page? You mean on the combat page?
That's correct. If you go to that, you should notice near the top.
So what am I looking for? I thought the whole point of the first page was I just click on the button and it rolls it for me.
For all the unmodified rolls, that will be, and which is the majority of them, yes. But if you go to the combat tab which you're in, you can probably see attribute and skill near the top, which are both currently set at C.
Yeah.
So set the attribute to A and the skill to D. And do you wish to use any ammo dice? That means effectively firing more than one round. You could attempt to fire multiple rounds up to your rate of fire, your ROF. Do you wish to do this?
Yes, but my question on that is, so at this point, seeing how, no offense, how badly his sniper rifle worked on these guys at a distance, I'm pretty much not trying to actually hit them at this point. I'm just trying to suppress fire so that they cannot get shots off at us. So can I do it for that reason specifically? Does that change anything? Since I
yes,
do have
you can,
them
and
in my sights, but
yeah.
I'm basically now just pumping ammo at them instead of trying to kill them, if that makes sense.
Yep, that is already built into the rules. So if you use ammo dice, and you can use up to a maximum of 6, they still have to do the pin tests if you get any bullet markers on your ammo dice, even if you don't hit them.
Okay, and does the ammo dice, is that like 1 for 1 bullet, or is it more like just a general term, like you use one amount?
Yeah, so the way that works is I will essentially be mousing over the ammo dice, or you can, to see what the sum total of the dice value of your ammo dice was. That is how many rounds you used.
So where do I
so
find
let's
that?
say you were to roll. So let's say you were to roll 4 dice, 4 ammo dice, and you were to get a 2, a 3, and 2 1s. Then you would have used 7 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why I don't do these kinds of games. I have no idea what like. I understand, like, it's a post-apocalyptic game, so they want heavy on the resource, but to me, I don't see the big difference in adding like 4 more bullets down range than if I just fired once. Does that make any sense?
You will when you run out of bullets.
Yeah, but
okay.
my games I never paid that much attention to this. That I wasn't that. My stuff was more like I don't know. Okay, so what do you recommend then? Since I have no idea, and also it's letting me click on all of the ammo dice. So do I have to do that, or do I, if I want to fire 4, if I want 4, do I have to click on 1 through 4, or do I just click on 4?
Well, I haven't actually run that test myself, so click on 1 through 4 and we'll see what happens, but I think that would be appropriate.
And so that would be...
and yeah, if you want to suppress them, you need to consume more ammunition, and suppressing is powerful.
Sorry, what do you mean by suppressing?
I would... Well, you're forcing them to duck.
Right.
They're not going to be able to react because you've sprayed the area with bullets. They're hidden. They're reluctant to pop up and to fire back. That's what suppression is.
So I click on 1 through 4. Does that mean I'm just firing 4 bullets, or does that mean I'm firing?
It means you won't know how many bullets you've fired until you roll those dice,
Okay.
but you could, in theory, fire as few as 4 or as many
much.
as 24.
Okay, so it is more abstract and vague than I thought. Okay, and then I just click on the dice.
It's a burst.
Okay.
It's an uncontrolled burst, is what it
Gotcha.
amounts to.
So the dice on the left, is that what I click on?
So yeah, the D20 tab to the left of the attribute.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Oh, well, you have done very well there. So, you have succeeded, you've hit. The explosion on that D6 we ignore for a moment, and you've also caused an extra point of damage from your bullet. Now, what you can choose to do, I would not recommend it, but what you can choose to do is push the roll. You would re-roll the dice that weren't explosions and weren't bullets, and weren't hits, to try and get more bullets, effectively, to do even more damage. If, however, you push the roll, then for every explosion you've got, you'll do damage to your weapon. You're already doing very well there, so I would not recommend that, but it's an option that's available to you if you want to use it.
Okay.
Wear and tear is a thing in this. I wouldn't push. I'd push if he missed completely.
Right. So... Yeah, I guess let's do this, figure out the damage, and then figure out that complication.
Okay. So, before we do that, please roll me and I'm just going to check this now. Actually, I'll roll it since we were the ones who were hit, but it's going to be... actually, you can do it for me. Please roll me a single D6. You can just type the command straight into the box.
This is where you hit him?
Yeah, because you didn't do a call shot. A 1, which translates out to... If this is the head, I'll laugh. The legs!
No.
You hit him in the legs.
That's fine.
The torso, the head's 6.
That's fine. That means he can't move.
Yeah, so you've got a base damage of 2. You scored 2 hits. That's 1 more than is necessary, so that takes it to 3. You've got a bullet there, which takes it to 4. So that's 4 damage. He is in woods, and you hit him in a piece of his body that is covered by a tree. It's not an exposed part. So the armor value of his cover will be of effect. So that 4 becomes 2. He has no armor on his legs. You have done 2 damage to his legs. He's not happy about this. That's going to note that.
So mechanically, what does that look like? So I guess the question I'm asking is like, so generally, if you have an NPC in Star Trek, you have like a certain amount of stress, and you basically whittle away. And generally, they have somewhere between 8 and 12 stress. What does it look? And so if someone took 1 stress, you hit him in the shoulder, you could be like, okay, you got a disruptor burn on the shoulder, but you can still fire. Like, what does that look like to them? Does that mean I kneecapped him and now he's crawling around, or does that mean he just took a skin wound, and it doesn't hurt that much? Or
so, yeah, the kneecapping and now he's crawling around is the sort of thing that happens when you get a critical. Getting a critical with a weapon means you did more damage than your critical value. I believe your critical value is a 3. You did 2 damage, so you did score a critical. Instead, what you have done is essentially flesh wounded his leg. He's gone hunkled down a bit, but he is still fully mobile, and he has taken 2 out of his 5 physical health. So 2 out of 5 stress in the manner that you're used to.
Okay.
He is not very happy about this. He's also been hit, which means he needs to make an immediate cool under fire roll. You've got an extra bullet, so that's going to go down 1 grade. He succeeds in his roll, and he is not pinned. He keeps his cool and is still able to act. Next up in the list is Nostro, if you're back.
So let me ask a question. So there's 3 Soviets. They act as a group or they act individually?
Yeah, so it's GM's choice about whether they act individually or as a group to speed up combat when there's lots of people who aren't special. It's recommended that similar characters act as a group. So I am having them act as a group, meaning they're all going on the same initiative and that kind of thing.
I gotcha. Because I'm wondering why they hadn't fired yet, and I'm like, we've taken 2 bursts at them. At some point, one of them's got to fire back.
Well, they will now be doing it because it hasn't been their turn since you fired, but firing reveals your location.
Okay.
Particularly at this kind of range. If you were a very long way off, I'd change that, but yeah. Sorry, Mag, you said something?
I think she's muted and deaf.
Yeah, I think Nostro's dealing with something. Okay, in that case, we will cycle it back round to, I believe, to the Commodore. Commodore, what do you wish to do?
Can I take a shot at him?
Yes, you can. It is at range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ranged 8 for you.
Yep. He.
Do those bushes
that's going to be difficult.
provide any cover? These things right here?
Not in this scenario. If he were in them, it would provide visual but not physical cover.
Okay.
But it's not really going to help him.
Gotcha.
Right. Because my pistol only does a range of 2, what is the difficulty to that?
So you would be firing at extreme range, which means that you would be at... Hang on. Sorry, long range, not extreme range. You'd be 3 dice steps down.
I was going to recommend running to that close
Okay.
shrubbery so you can have some cover and then firing. But then you're going to be immediately open to them. I don't know.
Yeah. But I got a hang on, sidearm.
Yep. So that's 1 dice step back up.
Yeah.
And he is in woods, which provide visual cover, which means you would be, I believe it's 2. Yes, 2 dice steps back down. So you would be overall at a -4.
Yeah.
Oh wow. You. Okay, I'm just going to check your sheet to make sure that you rolled the appropriate dice there, because I think you just rolled straight range combat. So I'm just going to check that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's there if we're not supposed to roll it.
Wow, no, you well, what you should have done is not rolled the second d6 at all, but you would still have scored 2 hits. You should do dice balancing and try to make them the same dice, but for the sake of moving on, we won't do that. So yeah, no, you hit this guy miraculously. Roll a d6 to determine hit location.
Okay. This is going to be funny.
Don't get a 1.
A 3.
Okay, a 3 is probably a torso hit.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I believe that is a torso hit. Indeed it is. So you hit his torso. This is a low-level Soviet grunt. He's not wearing body armor, so he's not going to get anything from that. He doesn't have physical cover. You scored 1 additional hit, which means that your damage goes up by 1. What is the base damage of your pistol?
Base damage is 2.
Which means it goes up to 3 because he scored an additional hit. He'd already taken damage from the sniper rifle shot. As a fun fact, what is the crit value of your pistol?
Crit is a 3.
You have critted him. He is an NPC. He instantly dies.
You know,
for fun,
I don't mean to be a jerk, but I feel like this is kind of broken. When a pistol can kill someone. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, the main thing there is they didn't get the steel helmet armor debuff. That's the main thing. They hit an unarmored location.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like there was a couple of buffs that I missed. Like the ranged fire modifiers, the telescopic sight with slow aim should have given me either a +1 or a +2 modifier. I think
I gave you +2.
Yeah,
oh, did you?
And I for some reason, probably because I didn't realize the gear I was going to be carrying, I have the sidearm specialty, and I didn't know I couldn't have my detective's gun with me.
These are things that you can gather in the wasteland relatively easily. Okay, so a Soviet is dead. Congratulations. You were very lucky there, Commodore. But it would not have been, well, you critted, so it would instantly kill an NPC. But that would also have killed him if he were a full PC. Well, actually, it would have put him into incapacitation, but we won't go into that. So, we now move to the next person in the initiative order, which are the Russians. They have seen one of their comrades die and must do a CUF roll. Okay, no, they pass, but only barely. So they still got their act together, but they are not happy about the developing scenario. They are going to combine their fire, both fire at the same target, and will be doing something only NPCs can do, which is take one shot, even though multiples are doing it, and effectively buff the to-hit roll. It means combat goes faster with NPCs. They will be firing at... yeah, and let's just see what... No, sorry, I'm just moving your token so I can see what you're on. Okay, you're in proper woods. Okay, they will be firing at... And let's see what GM's in. Yeah, he's in proper woods as well. Yeah, they'll be firing at the person... You're behind a rock. They'll be firing at the person who just killed their buddy. You are suddenly the person they hate. So, they are firing at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because it's a closer target. 7 range. They have got weapons with a base range of 6, so they're firing at medium range. So that's -1. 2 targets are firing at you, so that's +1. That's evens. You're in woods, which is going to be I believe, a -2. So they are at -2. You fast aimed, moved into there. Okay, you forgot to give yourself cover, but I'll count that. So they're going to be firing at... Go up to basics. On CC. They are going to utilize ammo dice. They really don't like you, and also this is a tutorial, so I'm just going to do the whole thing. They are going to utilize all the ammo dice they can. Wow! Okay, so a hail of lead just comes at you, Commodore. Just a vast storm of bullets. None of them hit you, but you are somewhat intimidated by this. Please give me a CUF roll. You succeed at your CUF roll and are not pinned. The Russian turn is over. So it is now Buzz.
Yeah, I'm going to switch firing modes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thumbing the select fire to burst.
Okay.
I'm going to take a fast action to aim at this bad guy here, the closest one to our leader. And I am going to just shoot and drop a couple of just a quick burst in that guy's general direction.
Excellent. So it's fast action +1. You've got rifleman and sniper, so that's another +1. What is the range increment of your weapon? It's probably 10.
It's a 10, yeah.
Okay, so you're firing at close range, no negatives. He is in
Cover.
I believe, yeah, he's in cover, but he's in shrub cover, so that is a -1. So your 1 dice step up. Are you doing an aimed attack or just generally?
No, it's an aimed attack. That was my fast action, was to aim a ranged weapon. And
I apologize.
Then shoot the firearm.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing a called shot to the gun. Okay.
No.
That.
Not a called shot.
Shoot your firearm. I thought you meant shoot at his firearm. Okay.
No. I'm aiming in his direction at him.
Yep.
And then my slow action would be to shoot the firearm.
To fire. Yep. That's absolutely correct. I just want to make sure you.
But I'm going to give him a burst. So.
Yep. So you are at an overall +1. However, I think you're normally at a AA, and you can't go above that.
Right. So it'd just be my range combat roll.
Yeah, you could probably roll straight off the weapon. It should work.
Yeah, but I need to add ammo dice, so I need to be
fair.
on the combat. I gotta need to be on the combat tab. So I'm going to add 2 ammo dice.
Okay.
And then let me scroll across, and then we'll see what happens.
Ooh. Okay, that's a hit and 2 additional damage. Please roll a d6 for the randomized hit location. 4, that's the torso. So you have a base damage, I think, of 3.
Yeah, that's correct.
You've got ammo dice. Do you want to hit him more than once, or do you want to put both of those damage onto the one shot that would hit him? I'll give you a clue. Putting the extra damage all onto the same shot rather than hitting him multiple times, I think will put you over your crit value.
Yeah, no, let's do that. Maximum effect.
All right. So you hit him in the torso. It's an unarmored location. He does benefit from cover, and it's a cover value of 2. So your 3 becomes 5. It becomes 3 again. But at least that way you still do damage. You probably have a crit value of 4 on your weapon, I'm guessing, or is it a crit value of 3?
I think it's 3.
If it's a crit value of 3, you have critted him. As an NPC, he instantly dies. He is dead. That is wonderful. His fellow could see one of his friends die, so he has to do a CUF roll.
Also, could I make a suggestion to everybody, just because this is a tutorial? What if we tested out our intimidation tactics and we tried to intimidate him to surrender and see how that works?
That's absolutely something that is doable in the rule system.
Does he emotionally break down?
Well, that is actually something that is mechanically there. He takes a point of stress damage. He hasn't gone to the full emotional breakdown. That's what happens when you reach maximum stress in a combat scenario. That is effectively you crawl behind a rock and just go until the combat ends.
How many of them did we kill? Just 1 or 2?
We killed 2 so far.
Okay.
Yeah, you've killed 2 out of 3 so far.
Because I remember I shot someone in the legs, but I don't remember what happened to him.
Well, he's the one that's still left.
Pinned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he is currently pinned, which means that he can take no actions when it's his turn, and then the pin will come off unless you manage to reapply it. It is now, Infamous, your turn. So if you want to try and do something,
yeah, I want to just. Yeah. I'm gonna let my colleagues know because I'm not an asshole. I'm like, the brass wants a prisoner. I'm gonna see if I can secure them one. Secure a perimeter, if you don't mind, Commodore. He looks over to what nationality is the Commodore? Is he Russian or German?
German.
Okay. If the Kraut doesn't mind, if he could secure a perimeter, I'm gonna go and get this prisoner, and I'm just gonna run. What's the distance on this game? How far can I run?
So you can move 2 hexes as a fast action without having to roll. You've got 2 fast actions, so you could in theory move 4 without having to roll. If you want to go further than that, you need to do a mobility roll. If you fail, you stop at the end of your 2 hexes. If you succeed, you move an additional number of hexes equal to how many successes you got.
Yeah, I don't think you can get there. I think you're too far away.
So, what do you suggest? Would it be possible for me to just get to like 2 and then shout to surrender and then roll for the persuasion roll and see what happens?
Yes, that would absolutely be possible.
Okay, because I don't want to run up to him and then it's not my turn anymore, and then he just stands up and shoots me on his turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna run to basically shouting distance. I no longer have the cover, but I hopefully by the time it's his turn and then my turn again, he's either dead or surrendered. So what do I do do I just role play it and then roll it like in Star Trek, or do I got to do something?
Role play it, roll it, and based on your role play and the scenario, your roll can be buffed or minused. But yeah, do the role play first.
Okay, so I'm gonna have my rifle shouldered, pointed directly as close as I possibly can, directly at center mass, and I'm just gonna shout. I'm not gonna actually shout it because I don't want to burn your guys' ears out, but I'm gonna shout. All right, you resky bastard, surrender, and we'll take you in quietly, or keep fighting a losing battle and die horribly.
Fantastic. Does your character speak Russian?
Probably not.
Okay, that's going to be a minus to the roll.
He doesn't speak English. I should have thought of that.
Yeah.
So just so I know, do we have anyone that speaks Russian on our team? Because I know we have a bunch of people with foreign names. I don't know which are German, which are Polish, which are Russian.
I know we've got people who speak Polish. I don't
Okay.
think we've got anyone who speaks Russian.
Okay, so if he doesn't understand English, he's probably just hearing blah blah blah, and then he's gonna shoot me.
Well, English is a pretty common language, so
That's true too.
most nationalities understand some basic words.
And what I will say, I'll allow you to retcon this slightly, but when speaking to somebody who doesn't speak your language, using single word and mime, like hand up and jerking up with your gun or doing the motion, something along those lines, is more likely to succeed than a long, complex sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you let me redo that then?
Yep.
Because I would literally just say surrender or die, and in Russian that would just be Stasia ili umret or something. That's what Google says it is. So I'll say surrender or die. I don't know because sometimes other than like spelling and stuff, their words sound similar to English. I don't think die or surrender is one of them, but I do just want to say.
There's another consideration. When I went into Desert Storm, we were given a list of things that we might need to say to a surrendering soldier from the other side, or we had a basic manual that would allow us to communicate with captured prisoners or with somebody across the trench if we wanted to, force them to surrender, which didn't really need to do because it seemed like most of them that I dealt with spoke English anyways. But would that be something that we would have prepared for before the outbreak of this conflict?
I will answer that question with a question. So, Infamous, is your character a character who joined in your... You can answer this either way you want. Who joined the US military before the outbreak of the war, or like at the very outbreak of the war, or in your mind were they conscripted more recently, later on?
Well, I'm not. So in my timeline,
I remember correctly, your character joined and then left the military and became law enforcement.
Yeah, but my question is, I asked earlier, and I think someone responded, but I asked like, when did the war break out? And I think someone said 98, and it's 2000 right now. So I would have been here in this current military unit for about 2 years, and then previously I would have been in for 6 years. So I do have a bit.
The war. I remember your question. Yeah, the war went on for a few years, like before the nukes fell. Everybody was a bit nuke shy for a few years. So the war's been going on since like 1996, I think, maybe 1995. And then it got bad after the nukes fell. The reason why I'm asking that question is if in your conception of your character you are either regular in the army immediately before the war, or you were conscripted early on, people were still getting proper equipment. You might have been given that manual of phrases. If you're a late war conscript, proper equipment is a thing of the past. You would not have been given that book.
Yep. Deploy as quick as possible.
Also, in both instances of me being in the military, I was logistics, assuming that I had any sort of accessibility to any kind of logistical manuals or equipment in the vicinity of where we are now. I would probably have picked up a bit of Russian regardless, just based on, oh look, there's a book, it's in Russian, let me,
Yeah.
So I feel like surrender and or die will probably be like, I would probably have that tattooed on my back, so I would say that would be kind of a given for my character.
I'll give you a negative, but not a heavy negative.
Fair enough.
Quick question. If because I've been in the military, my character's been in the military since he graduated, would he have a that manual?
Phrase book. Yeah. He would have the basic phrase book because he was regular military already at the outset of the war when everyone was getting proper equipment.
Yep. So he would have been able to teach the sergeant
a couple
here.
of basic phrases, like 10 words.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, still not your native tongue, etc. You don't have the linguist specialism. There's going to be a minus, but it's not going to be a big one. So -1 for basic phrase, not in your native language. I'm going to say +1 because you outnumber him, +1 because his friends are dead, +1 because he's pinned and therefore he's already in a nervous and afraid state. -1 for the distance. That's an overall +1. So you can roll your... do you have any specialisms related to persuasion? Do you have, let's say, for instance, psyops, which would be a bonus to this roll?
No, I don't.
Well, we could always show him a first aid kit too, right? So that could persuade him a little.
Okay.
You did
if you
wound
want to
him.
wave that around.
I'm gonna
If you
go
want to
with
offer that to him, I'll allow that.
I'm gonna go intimidation right now, and then you guys can play the hippy dippy tree lovers if you want. Yeah, we do have a medic who's not here right now.
So roll manipulation at a +1. So that's going to be for you a D12 and a D10.
So how do I just click on the button? How do I make it a +1?
It's what you were doing for the ranged combat. You just go to the same tab and you just go ability D12 because it's an A,
Okay.
and then skill D10 because it's normally a C but it's been buffed to a B.
Okay. So I'm still trying to figure out what's the point of that first character sheet if we're not using it.
Yeah, lots of things are unmodified rolls, and it's a good way of keeping track of it. The macros are not brilliant. It's roll 20.
Yeah. All right.
All right, that's a success.
Does that mean I succeeded, or does that mean does he not contest it?
Yeah, so it really depends on the situation. They can contest it. It's very altering from scenario to scenario, whether you're dealing with a minion NPC or an important one who's got like a full stat sheet, etc. In this particular case, what I'm going to say is after you've called out your demand for this person to surrender, there's a few seconds of silence, and then you see from behind the rock a little something just like, because you're still 40, 50 odd meters away, a little something just whoosh fly out to the side. Give me an unmodified recon roll. There you go. There's the basics. Give me an unmodified recon roll.
And who's that? Everybody?
Well, I would be able to spot that through the telescopic sight, right?
You can also give me an unmodified recon roll.
Same as me, because I'm keeping a lookout as
You're
well.
a bit too far away. Well, okay, that's a fail there. Let's just see what our Buzz does first. Oh, wow. You can, but you're a decent distance away, so you'd be at a -1.
Okay, that...
He must have flung it behind the rock.
Oh my God!
Okay,
He's throwing a grenade.
You. Okay, so none of you know just what happened. Do you? I'm going to give you an opportunity before anything else happens. Having seen this thing just fly sideways out from behind the rock, do you do anything instantly, or do you wait for the situation to develop?
Are you asking me or Mac?
I'm asking everyone in the party.
Oh. Well, if I can't see what it is, unless it's coming directly at me, I'm just gonna keep pointing my gun at him.
I think I would just immediately go into Overwatch because, as a reaction and not knowing what he just threw, I'd be on heightened alert. I would still have my weapon in burst fire, and would just be ready to react if he decided to come out from behind the rock shooting.
That was my intent as well. I just don't know the terminology, so I guess I'm doing Overwatch too.
Excellent. So you're both watching this person. A few more seconds of silence and no particular movement, no particular noise. What is he up to? What is he doing? And then, slowly, from behind the rock, you very gently see the tips of his fingers start to...
Well, I mean, I'd have the telescopic sight. I'd be able to see the hands at least. And I would call out that, I see hands, no weapons.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Mac's critical failure is about to come into play.
Only if, weirdly, in recon rolls. Okay, so the critical failures only matter really if you push a roll. Otherwise, they're just a normal failure.
Oh, cool.
I am at liberty to change that on the fly because I'm me. But in this scenario,
because I thought Mac was gonna be like, he's throwing a grenade and just open fire, and then we all just open fire and kill an innocent person.
Yep. But yeah, after a while, the hands come up, and then slowly the steel helmet starts to appear as they get up over the rock, and they step away from the thing that they threw. They go to the other side. Well, not a rock, a tree. They go around the other side of the tree and start slowly walking towards you in open ground. And since the thing has been thrown aside and it's been lying in the open for a few seconds now, and this is effectively the end, you're now able to tell it was his assault rifle.
Cool.
But excellent. Yes, this person approaches you slowly with his hands up. He's looking visibly shaken. His leg is bleeding. He's limping every time he takes a step towards you.
I was going to be mean and tell him to get on his knees, but I don't know if would that help him or hurt him. I don't know.
I'll tell the medic to patch him up when we secure him.
Yeah, and I'll put some zip ties on his hands, but yeah, we'll get the medic to look at him and basically take him back, and now we got a prisoner for our.
You've got a prisoner.
What's it called? The 6th Mechanized Infantry or something like that.
6th Mechanized Infantry Division. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
If you want, I say if you want to be something more specific within the division, like a particular company or battalion, etc., I would say feel free to choose, but unit cohesion has long since stopped being a thing of the past.
At this point, we're not really a unit. We're just kind of a collaboration of survivors that are, we're not really a unit anymore. I mean, maybe Infamous and I are both from the 6th Mechanized because we're both military, but Commodores, a German officer wouldn't be part of that unit.
Yeah, it'd be more like a joint thing, I guess, for him.
Be a joint effort.
It's a joint effort. It's called desperate improvisation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, which country is Master Kriebel's character, the medic, from? America or another country?
United States.
Okay, so we outnumber you. Don't forget that. Hey, that sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure the Romulan said that to you guys in the other Saturday game when you first started.
Excellent. Well, that's the quick combat tutorial done up. Hopefully that was edifying and gave you some clues as to the importance of effectively cover and suppression in the main combats. Is there anything else you want, or anything you want to ask, or anything you want to clarify before we move on?
I think tactically I get it. Of course, I was a tactical person in the military, so
excellent.
I didn't sit in an office and hand out MREs.
No, I did. Sorry.
I was actually in a forward unit. I was in the signal unit, but during Desert Storm, we were never more than a few hundred yards behind the battle line. So
But hey, don't worry, Infamous. In this scenario, the MREs are far more valuable.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll bring everyone back to the start screen, and whoop. Okay, we've got a few minutes, and we can be a bit loose on time. What with it being a weekend, but if people have got things they need to go to, let me know.
I'm good.
But excellent.
I'm
I
good.
think fantastic. In that case, what I think we can do, if everybody's ready, is sort of begin, like, set the scene for session one, and start getting into it. If everybody's okay with that.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Could we?
All right.
Sorry, I had to talk to my family. Are you asking if we want to start quote unquote session one, basically?
Yes.
Okay. Could I just ask for like a 10-minute break? I gotta get something to eat.
Absolutely. I'll take advantage of that as well, just to do,
All right.
just to go and tend to something and get more water.
Okay.
Everybody come back in a few.
Okie doke.
That's going to be funny. You're finally back, Nostra? We got a 10-minute break. So if you want to get something to eat or something, you can. Hello.